For 5 long years, my sister Olivia believed her perfect life crumbled by accident. She has no idea that I was the architect of her ruin. Before we dive into the secret I've carried for all these years, please take a second to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and drop a comment below guessing what the final twist will be. Now, where were we? To understand the depth of the cut, the kind of wound that doesn't just scar but festers, you have to understand my family. Growing up, my sister Olivia and I were presented as 2 sides of the same coin, a lovely little catchphrase our parents would trot out at dinner parties. In reality, we were more like the sun and a distant, frozen planet. Olivia was the sun, 2 years older, radiant, and possessing a gravitational pull that our entire family's solar system revolved around. She was effortlessly beautiful, with a charm that could disarm a firing squad. She'd get the lead in the school play without even wanting it. She was homecoming queen by default, and she had this terrifying ability to make you feel like the center of the universe, right before she needed something from you. Our parents weren't just parents, they were her first and most devout worshippers. Olivia's successes were family triumphs announced via glossy Christmas newsletters. Her minor struggles were family crises that required hushed phone calls and emergency checks. I, on the other hand, was Pluto. My name is Chloe, and I was the quiet, responsible one orbiting way out on the cold, dark edge of our family. I was the good student, the one who remembered everyone's birthdays and anniversaries, the one who organized the family gatherings that she would sweep into an hour late and instantly become the main event. I cleaned up after her parties. I didn't possess Olivia's dazzling, loud charisma. My strengths were quiet, like the steady hum of a well-running machine. I was dependable, but in a family that worshipped fireworks, a steady flame is not only overlooked, it's taken for granted. Sibling rivalry implies a competition. For us, there was no contest. It was a foregone conclusion. Olivia received attention. I received expectations. I remember one Christmas vividly. I was 10. I had saved my allowance for months, a crumpled collection of dollar bills, to buy my mom a delicate silver locket she'd admired in a shop window weeks before. I was bursting with pride as I wrapped it perfectly, with crisp corners and a hand-drawn card. On Christmas morning, Mom opened it and gave me a warm, but distracted, hug. "Oh, Chloe, this is so thoughtful," she said. My heart soared. A few minutes later, it was Olivia's turn. She presented her gift, a lumpy, misshapen clay ashtray she'd made in art class. She had, of course, forgotten to get a real gift and threw it together at the last minute. My father held it up as if it were a priceless artifact. "Look at this! A true artist in the family," he boomed. My mother, seeing his enthusiasm, put my locket down on the end table. She spent the next 20 minutes praising Olivia's unique, abstract creation. The silver locket went back in its box. To my knowledge, it was never worn. That was the blueprint for our lives. My effort was acknowledged with a pat on the head. Her complete lack of effort was adored as a sign of her innate specialness. As we got older, the pattern didn't just continue, it calcified. Olivia floated through life on a cloud of charm and parental support. They put the down payment on her first house, they co-signed for her new car, they were her perpetual safety net for every poor decision. She married her high school sweetheart, Mark, a good-looking guy from a wealthy family who seemed to worship the ground she walked on, and they quickly had 2 beautiful children. Her life looked exactly like a perfectly curated, pastel-hued Instagram feed. My path was carved out of rockier terrain. I worked my way through college and then law school, shouldering my own significant student debt, a fact I was fiercely proud of. My independence was my armor. I met my husband, David, in the hushed aisles of the law library. He was kind, he was steady, and he saw me in a way my family never had. With him, I wasn't on the outskirts of someone else's solar system. I was the center of his. But there was one shadow looming over our happiness. We wanted children. Desperately. And after 2 years of trying, it just wasn't happening. That's when the painful, invasive, and emotionally pulverizing journey began. The endless doctor's appointments, the nightly injections that left my stomach a canvas of bruises, the cold jelly of the ultrasound wand, and the soul-crushing disappointment of another negative test, month after agonizing month. It was a private, quiet grief that David and I carried together. I made the mistake of trying to share some of it with my mom, hoping for a sliver of maternal support. Her advice was always filtered through the golden lens of Olivia. "Oh, honey, don't stress so much," she'd say. When Olivia was trying for Lily, she just relaxed on a vacation to Hawaii, and it happened instantly. "Maybe you and David just need a holiday." The comparisons never stopped. They were the background radiation of my life. Olivia treated my struggle with a bizarre, toxic cocktail of pity and condescension. She'd offer unsolicited advice, always laced with a subtle reminder of her own effortless fertility. "Are you sure you're tracking your ovulation right? I used this amazing app. It was so easy," she'd say, as if I hadn't become an unwilling expert on the labyrinthine functions of my own body. It felt less like help and more like she was reinforcing the family narrative. Olivia succeeds easily where Chloe must struggle and fail. That constant, grinding friction was the kindling, just waiting for a spark. And that spark finally came, drenched in pastel pink and baby blue, at my cousin's baby shower. It was a pastel-colored nightmare. A sun-drenched garden party where women cradled their bellies, swapped birth stories in triumphant tones, and cooed over impossibly tiny clothes. For me, every cheerful laugh felt like a fresh paper cut on my already wounded heart. I was in the middle of a particularly brutal IVF cycle, my body bloated and bruised, my emotions hanging by the thinnest of threads. The day before, I'd gotten a clinical, detached call from the nurse. Our latest embryo transfer had failed. David had begged me not to go. "You don't have to do this," he'd said, his eyes full of concern. But I felt that stupid, deeply ingrained sense of family duty. So I plastered a smile on my face, bought an overpriced diaper pail, and walked willingly into the lion's den. I tried to keep a low profile, hovering on the edge of conversations, but of course, Olivia found me. She floated over in a chic, expensive sundress, a glass of champagne held delicately in her hand. "There you are, hiding," she said, her voice just a little too loud, drawing the attention of our nearby cousins. "You're looking so tired, Chloe. Everything okay?" I forced a brittle smile. "Just a long week at work." A complete lie, but the truth felt too fragile, too sacred to be spoken aloud in that room. She didn't buy it for a second. "Is it the baby thing?" she asked, dropping her voice to a conspiratorial whisper that was somehow more performative and public than shouting. Bad news again. My stomach clenched into a cold, hard knot. "Olivia, I really don't want to talk about this here." "Oh, come on, we're sisters," she insisted, placing a hand on my arm. It was meant to look supportive for the audience she had gathered, but it felt like she was staking a claim, marking her territory on my grief. My cheeks burned with humiliation. "Please, just drop it," I whispered, trying to pull my arm away from her grasp. And that's when it happened. My refusal to perform my grief for her, to give her the drama she craved, flipped a switch in her. Her pleasant mask hardened, replaced by a cold, familiar cruelty I hadn't seen since she used to torment me as a child. "You know," she began, her voice now low and cutting, "maybe it's for the best." I just stared at her, my mind unable to process the words. "What's for the best?" She took a small, deliberate sip of her champagne, her eyes locked on mine with an unnerving intensity. "This whole infertility thing. The endless drama. The crying. You're just a black hole of sadness, Chloe." The air left my lungs. I was speechless, paralyzed. I could feel our relatives pretending not to listen, their bodies angled away but their ears tuned in. "A child needs a happy mother," she continued, her words like precise, deliberate stabs from a scalpel. "Not someone so self-absorbed and negative all the time. And honestly, looking at how you handle any kind of disappointment, it's a good thing you can't have children." She paused, letting the silence hang in the air for a beat before delivering the final, catastrophic blow. "You don't deserve them." There it was. You don't deserve them. It wasn't just an insult, it was a judgment. A verdict on my entire being, my worth as a woman, delivered by the one person who knew exactly how much I was hurting. She hadn't just crossed a line, she had incinerated it, salted the earth, and danced on the ashes. She took my deepest pain and my most cherished dream, and she weaponized them against me with a smirk. In that moment, something inside me didn't just break, it turned to dust. The fragile, frayed thread that had connected us for 30 years finally, irrevocably, snapped. My reaction wasn't loud or dramatic. It was dead quiet. I looked at her, this woman who shared my blood but not my heart, and felt nothing but a cold, hollow emptiness. I slowly, deliberately, removed her hand from my arm. I didn't say a word. I just turned, walked through the crowd of suddenly fascinating floral arrangements, got in my car and drove away. The tears didn't come. Not yet. I was in that strange, numb state of shock that precedes true agony. When I got home, David took one look at my face and knew. I collapsed into his arms, and the sobs that finally tore out of me were ragged, animalistic sounds of pure grief. I told him what she'd said, the words feeling like poison on my tongue. His face, normally so gentle, became a mask of cold fury. Within the hour, the phone rang. My mother. I ignored it. Then a text. Olivia said you ran out. What happened? Call me. David just shook his head and deleted it. Then came the text from Olivia herself, a masterclass in gaslighting. The first read, I'm sorry if what I said upset you, but you were being really dramatic. I was just trying to be honest. Honest. She called that evil, calculated cruelty honesty. It was another slap in the face. When I didn't respond, her tone shifted to indignant anger. You're really going to make a scene over this? You always do this, Chloe. You make everything about you. The classic narcissistic reversal. She was already rewriting history, casting me as the hypersensitive troublemaker and herself as the poor, misunderstood victim of my feelings. The next day, my father called. I steeled myself and answered, putting the phone on speaker. Chloe, your mother is very upset, he started, his voice dripping with disappointment. Whatever happened between you and Olivia, you need to be the bigger person and fix it. She's your sister. Did Mom tell you what Olivia said to me? I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. There was a brief pause. She said there were some harsh words exchanged. Olivia was just worried about you, honey. You know how she is. She speaks her mind. You need to be less sensitive. Less sensitive. My entire world had been cracked open by her cruelty, and I was being told to be less sensitive. It was the family mantra, the magical phrase used to excuse every single one of Olivia's transgressions. My pain was an inconvenience. Her behavior was just who she is. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just up against my sister. I was up against the entire family system, a machine built to protect and enable its golden child. And in that same moment, the grief inside me began to cool, to harden. It changed shape, morphing from sorrow into something else. Something cold, sharp and patient. No, Dad, I said, my voice gaining a strength I didn't know I possessed. I don't need to be less sensitive. Olivia needs to be more human. And you all need to stop making excuses for her. I took a breath. I'm done. I'm done with her, and I'm done with anyone who defends what she did. I calmly said, Goodbye, Dad, and hung up the phone. That was it. That was the moment I chose my own sanity over my family's suffocating dysfunction. But it was also the moment a plan began to form, a tiny, dark seed planted in the barren soil of my grief. David and I made a pact. We blocked Olivia, my parents, and any other flying monkeys on our phones and social media. We sent one final, formal email stating we were taking an indefinite step back from the family and that any attempt to force a reconciliation would result in a permanent end to all contact. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a boundary made of steel. It was the healthiest, most painful thing I had ever done. The first year was agony. The holidays were a special kind of hell, filled with the phantom limb pain of family traditions I was no longer a part of. The guilt that had been programmed into me since birth was a monstrous, whispering voice in my head. Was I being stubborn? Was I, as Olivia had accused, just making everything about me? But every time that doubt crept in, David would gently remind me of her words. You don't deserve them. And my resolve would harden all over again. I threw myself into therapy, learning that my pain was valid and that I was not responsible for their dysfunction. But I was also doing something else. In the quiet hours of the night, when David was asleep, I started my research. Olivia's husband, Mark, was a partner at a mid-level financial firm. His entire life was online, a portfolio of arrogance and oversharing. It wasn't hard to find his professional vulnerabilities, his disgruntled former clients, the whispers of his cutthroat ambition. As a lawyer, I knew how to find information. I started a private, encrypted file. I called it the Karma Project. 2 years after the incident, David and I formally stopped the fertility treatments. The emotional and physical toll was just too much. We decided to pursue adoption. A new path, one filled with genuine hope, not clinical despair. 3 years after that, 5 years to the day after Olivia's curse, we brought home our son, a beautiful, perfect baby boy named Leo. Holding Leo in my arms for the first time, I felt a peace so profound it brought me to tears. I looked at his tiny, trusting face and I knew. I knew Olivia had been catastrophically wrong. I was a mother, and I damn well deserved it. In those 5 years of silence, I built a happy, peaceful, fulfilling life that didn't include my sister. I had a loving husband, an amazing son, a thriving legal career, and a small circle of friends who were more family than my own blood. The wound from Olivia was just a faint, silver scar. It no longer ached, and my Karma Project had grown into a detailed, multi-layered file of damning information. I had moved on from the pain, but I had not moved on from the plan. I thought I might have to wait years more for the perfect opportunity. But then, life, in its funny, cruel way, delivered it right to my doorstep. The call came from my mother. We hadn't spoken for more than a few minutes at a time in 5 years, our chats always superficial, a careful dance around the Olivia-shaped elephant in the room. But this time, her voice was thin and frayed with a panic I recognized. "Chloe, it's Olivia," she said, no preamble. "Something terrible has happened." A cold, calm feeling washed over me, the feeling of a plan coming to fruition. I feigned a note of alarm. "What is it? Is she okay? Are the kids okay?" Mark left her. My mother sobbed into the phone. "He just packed a bag and left. He said he couldn't take it anymore. He cleared out their joint bank account, Chloe. The house is in foreclosure. She's going to lose everything." I sank into a chair, letting out a measured, sympathetic sound. Mark, the adoring husband, had finally left. The perfect Instagram marriage was a lie. This was phase 1. I knew all of this, of course. I had been anonymously feeding information to one of Mark's professional rivals for over a year, information that led to an internal investigation that had cost Mark his promotion. I had also, through a cutout, made sure Mark discovered the full extent of Olivia's secret credit card debt. I didn't make him leave her. I just gave the deeply unhappy man the final push he needed. "But that's not all," my mother continued, her voice cracking. "Her son, your nephew Michael, he's sick. They think it's a rare autoimmune disorder. The medical bills are piling up. Mark's company health insurance was covering everything, but now he's cut her off. Chloe, she has nothing. No money, no job, and a very sick child. She's completely falling apart." I listened, my face a mask of concern. My heart genuinely did ache for my nephew, an innocent pawn in this. I had factored him into my plan. This was the most delicate part. "What does she need?" I asked, keeping my voice even and professional. "She needs you," my mother pleaded, her voice thick with desperation. "She needs legal advice. She doesn't know her rights. Mark is trying to steamroll her, and she can't afford a lawyer. You're a family law attorney, Chloe. You're the only one who can possibly help her." The irony was so thick you could choke on it. The sister who told me I wasn't worthy of being a mother now needed my professional help to keep her own family from dissolving. The universe doesn't have a twisted sense of humor, I do. I told my mother I needed to think about it, to add to the drama. David, who knew everything, played his part perfectly. "It's your decision, 100%, he said that night, his voice loud enough for me to imagine my mother hearing it. "Whatever you choose, I'm with you." I let 2 days pass. 2 days for her desperation to fester. Why would I open the door to the person who caused me the most profound pain of my life? I had to make her believe that was my primary concern. Then, as I knew it would, my doorbell rang. I walked to the door, my heart beating with a slow, steady rhythm. When I opened it, the sight of her almost made me smile. This was not the polished, radiant Olivia. The woman on my doorstep was a wraith. Her expensive clothes, which I knew were now maxed out on credit, hung off her thin frame. Her hair was unwashed, and her eyes, once so sharp and confident, were hollowed out and rimmed with red. She was clutching a stack of legal papers to her chest like a shield. She looked at me, and for the first time in her entire life, she seemed to be speechless. The power dynamic that had defined our 30-year existence had not just flipped, it had been reversed with tectonic force. She stood on my porch, broken and pathetic, while I stood in the doorway of the happy, stable, beautiful home I had built not in her absence, but for this very moment. "Chloe," she whispered, her voice hoarse and broken. I need your help." I didn't invite her in. Not right away. I let her stand there on the welcome mat, a physical boundary that mirrored the one I'd spent 5 years meticulously constructing. I looked at this shattered version of my sister, and the cold, quiet anger I had nurtured for so long felt like a comforting weight in my chest. "Help," I repeated, my voice calm, almost clinical. "That's a word you've never had to use with me before." She flinched, a visible tremor running through her. "Chloe, please. This isn't the time for—" She trailed off, realizing in real time that she was in no position to make demands of any kind. "Isn't it?" I asked, tilting my head slightly. "It feels like the perfect time to me. Before we talk about me helping you, Olivia, we have to talk about the last real conversation we had." Tears, real ones this time, welled in her eyes. This wasn't her usual performative waterworks. This was the raw, ugly weeping of utter despair. "I know," she whispered. "I know what I said. Do you?" I pressed, my voice unyielding. This was part of the plan. I needed her to say it. I needed her to feel the texture of the words in her own mouth. "Remind me. What did you say?" She looked down at the crumbling concrete of my porch, a metaphor so perfect I almost laughed. I said you didn't deserve to have kids." The words came out as a choked, desperate sob, and she finally looked up at me, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated shame. "Yes, you did," I confirmed, letting the words hang there like a death sentence. "You said it when you knew I was at my absolute lowest point on earth. You took the most painful struggle of my life, and you used it to kick me while I was down. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" "I was jealous," she burst out, a frantic, pathetic confession. "I was so jealous of you." I feigned stunned disbelief. "Jealous of me? Olivia, you had everything. The perfect husband, 2 perfect kids, the perfect house our parents paraded around as the family gold standard. I had a bruised stomach, a string of failed IVF treatments, and a broken heart. What on earth could you have possibly been jealous of?" "Your career," she cried, the words tumbling out. "Your strength, the way you just did everything yourself. You went to law school. You built this incredible career. You have David, who looks at you like you're the only person in the world. You had a life that was yours. I didn't. I had the life everyone expected me to have. I was playing a part, the perfect wife, the perfect mother. And I was suffocating." She took a ragged breath. "Mark, he didn't worship me. He controlled me. He liked the idea of me, the pretty wife on his arm, but he made me feel stupid and small. And my kids, I love them so much it hurts, but I was drowning. And I looked at you, with your independence and your purpose, and I hated you for it. Because you were everything I wasn't brave enough to be. So I said the cruelest thing I could possibly think of. It was monstrous, and I have lived with the shame of it every single day." It was the most honest she had ever been in her life. And it was all true. I had discovered this in my research years ago. Her confession wasn't a revelation to me. It was a required step in my process. I saw her then, not as my sister, but as a case study. The golden child, trapped in a gilded cage of her own making. The pressure to be perfect, the hollowness behind the flawless facade. Her cruelty hadn't come from a place of strength, but from profound, pathetic weakness. It didn't excuse it. It didn't erase the years of pain. But it made her downfall all the more satisfying. I was silent for a long time, watching her. The rain had started again, a soft drizzle, and she was shivering, but she just stood there, awaiting my judgment, my verdict. This was the moment. The plot twist wasn't for the audience. It was for her. "What you said almost destroyed me, Olivia," I began, my voice hardening. "But what you don't know is that in that moment, you didn't just give me pain. You gave me a purpose. She looked confused, her brow furrowing. I will never forget what you said. I continued. But you have it all wrong. Your life didn't just fall apart. I took it apart, piece by piece. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What are you talking about? Mark, I said, the name dropping like a stone in a silent pool. He was unhappy for years, Olivia. I just gave him the resources and the legal roadmap to finally leave you. The information that cost him his promotion? That came from me. The anonymous tip to his firm's compliance department about his creative accounting? Also me. The final straw, him finding out about your secret shopping debt? I made sure that statement found its way to his desk. The color drained from her face. She looked like she had been physically struck. No, she whispered. You wouldn't. You told me I didn't deserve a family, I said, my voice dropping to a low, chilling whisper. So I decided you didn't deserve yours. You built your perfect life on my parents' money and my quiet suffering. I'm just foreclosing on the debt. Her face crumpled, the shame replaced by a wave of horrified understanding. She finally saw me, not as her little sister, the quiet doormat, but as the architect of her personal apocalypse. Now, I said, stepping back and opening the door wider. I am going to help you. I am going to be your lawyer. I'm going to guide you through this process and make sure your children are taken care of. Because unlike you, I don't punish children for the sins of their mother. You will do exactly as I say. You will get a job. You will learn to stand on your own 2 feet. And every single day for the rest of your life, you will be dependent on the grace of the one person you tried to break. I gave her a cold, empty smile. Come in, Olivia. Let's look at those papers. So I took her case. It wasn't forgiveness. It was the final, most exquisite phase of my revenge. The help I offered came with shackles made of ironclad boundaries. I was her legal counsel, and our interactions were brutally professional. I set specific, limited times for our calls. I made it excruciatingly clear, in every conversation, that I was doing this for Michael and Lily, and that she, personally, was nothing more to me than a client. A charity case. The family caretaker role was dead and buried. I was no longer the emotional dumping ground. I was the resource. I was the power. I was in complete and total control, and I made sure she felt it every single second. The process was long and messy, exactly as I had designed. Mark, emboldened by his own anger, fought her on everything, just as I'd anticipated. But with my precise, cold guidance, Olivia began to find her footing because she had no other choice. For the first time in her life, she had to be the strong one. She got a humiliating part-time job stocking shelves at a grocery store. She learned how to budget, a concept as foreign to her as quantum physics. She became a fierce, desperate advocate for her son, navigating the insane medical system to get him the care he needed. I would connect her with a top specialist for Michael, a lifeline I would extend, and then remind her she only had because of me. Her texts were no longer filled with condescension, but with pathetic gratitude. Thank you, Chloe. I don't know what I would do without you. Each one was a small victory. I arranged for our sons to have playdates at a neutral park. Watching them play together, this new generation, I felt a strange, detached satisfaction. She would send me a photo of them, and I knew it was her way of seeking my approval. Our relationship now is a wasteland. It's fragile and awkward, a permanent, stilted truce. There are no easy family dinners. There are no casual calls. We communicate about legal matters, medical updates for Michael, and the logistics of the children. Sometimes, I see a flicker of the old Olivia in her eyes, a flash of resentment, but it dies as quickly as it appears. She knows who holds all the cards. She knows that I saved her from complete annihilation, but left her in a purgatory of my own design. I don't know if she will ever recover from the knowledge that I orchestrated her downfall. I don't care. Trust isn't a switch you can flip back on. Our sisterhood is dead. I mourned it once, but now I see its absence as a source of strength. This new dynamic, built on her dependence and my control, is the only justice I was ever going to get. In the end, this journey was never about Olivia's redemption. It was about my own coronation. I learned that my worth was never tied to her approval or my parents' validation. My worth is my own. I built it myself, from the ashes of the life she tried to burn down. Helping her wasn't an act of weakness or a betrayal of my boundaries. It was the ultimate act of power. It was proof that I had healed so completely that I could calmly and rationally dismantle her life and then manage the fallout without flinching. Her circus was no longer my circus. I was now the ringmaster. I chose to help because I could, because the woman she had tried to shatter had become unbreakable, and because family isn't about blood, it's about power, and I had finally taken it all back. If this story left you speechless, smash that like button right now. Tell me in the comments, was justice served or did I go too far? And don't forget to subscribe, you won't want to miss next week's chilling confession.